This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring programme that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Rachel Halliwell. Rachel, how are we?
Okay, thank you.
Very tragic story. We're here to talk about your daughter, 12 years old, tragically took her own life. She was alleged rape and bullying, videos of bullying and being abused. Heartbreaking stuff. As a father myself to a 14-year-old daughter, I couldn't imagine what you've been through, what you've went through. There's been a lot of turmoil going through all this as well. It's not just the tragic death of your daughter, but it's what you've had to then put up with after it. Before and after. But this is why you're here today, is to kind of shed light on it, and hopefully we can try and get some answers for you. But how are you?
Very up and down. Good days, bad days. It is difficult.
Yeah, I'd imagine it would be.
It is.
Before we get into everything, I always like to go back to the start of my guest, Rachel. Get more of a bit of understanding about you as well, where you grew up and how it all began.
Well, I was born in Southport. I grew up there. Went to school there. Same school as Samina. Yeah, primary school, yeah. And then left and started hairdressing.
How were you at school? How was your schooling?
Normal. Okay. Bit naughty.
Yeah, I think every kid back then, do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of, it was different days then. Was there any bullying back then?
There was bullying, yeah, but not to the extent it is today. You know, I mean, there was bullying going on all the time in school, but, you know, you went home, you got on the bus, you went home, and that was it. The bullying stopped.
Do you think you dealt with bullying? Kids back then dealt with bullying more because there was no cameras, there was no sort of footage of people seeing it, so it kind of happened, and then it was just a case of you had to go back to school the next day and kind of forget about it?
It was very different. I think it was the bullying that went on at school. You kind of dealt with it, but you knew when you walked away from it, it was just the end of it, because you know there's no phones, is there? There's no social media back in my day. So it's completely different. It was different world.
Do you have a big family?
No, I have one sister, but we're a very close family, mum and dad.
So hairdressing, how long are you doing that for?
I started at Headlines when I was 16, and I did it till I had the children. I went travelling around hairdressing. I worked for Tony and Guy after Headlines, and ended up in London, and that's where I met the children's father.
How long did that relationship last?
On and off. On and off for about 13 years.
That's the majority of relationships now. I don't think anybody's in a steady relationship, especially with so much social media and so much. It's just too
Oh
much.
no, that's
It's just crazy nowadays. I think back in the day, I wouldn't say it would be easy to have a relationship, but it was more. You only had a house phone. Now everybody's accessible. Everybody can get in contact with anybody.
Yeah, they can,
It's kind of just everything's broken down.
everything's different.
Yeah, it's all
now.
changed.
Very changed.
We sound like a couple of fucking dinosaurs.
I'd rather be a dinosaur.
What age did you have your first child?
26. That was George. And then there was 10 years between George and Rafi.
Why the long wait?
Oh, it is.
Were you planning on having any more, or was it?
Well, I was back and forth to Cyprus and England and back to Cyprus. And then eventually got back with my husband after marrying him a second time.
You got married, divorced, then married again?
Yeah.
That is fucked up. Did you realise the second time that nobody changes? So what happened then? You got married, divorced? Did you get divorced or did you
Yeah.
stay married?
No, got divorced.
And you married the same guy again?
Yeah, years later.
What were you thinking? True love, or it must be meant to be, or just thinking, nah, I'm fucked up?
Yeah, fucked up.
How many kids have you got?
3.
Same fella?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you get divorced again?
Yeah.
When's the third wedding going to be?
No, definitely not.
How was he as a dad?
Shit.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he around?
No.
Do you think that plays a part? Because I speak to enough people now, and when the father figures are not around, the mother has to get into the feminine and the masculine as well, so it's hard to kind of separate. I think men and women have got their roles as parents for kids. Do you think that plays a part in kids growing up not having a father?
I think it does, especially when it comes down to the boys with football. And my eldest son was into shooting, but he had my dad for that. And that's what they got involved in. That's what they did. Rafi was an amazing footballer, and he could have done really, really well. And I think he needed a father figure because it was my mum and me taking him to football. And all the other kids were at football. He used to go to Liverpool Academy, and it's all the dads. It was never mums. So it was, I think in that respect, they needed a father figure. But I would say that as a parent, I think I did, I gave them everything. They had the love and the support. They had, good food on the table, good clothes, beautiful home, and so I gave them my best. And I think sometimes is, if you've got a partner who is not necessarily got those goals like you have, they're a hindrance.
It drowns you sometimes.
Yeah.
So you had the baby, married, divorced. Why back a second time then, have more kids?
Don't know, must have been going through a bit of a mental breakdown at the time.
3 kids then, 2 boys and your daughter?
Well, I had Rafi, and straight away I got pregnant with Samina. And she was a twin, so I was having twins. So it was a shock.
So what happened with the twin? Did you only have one?
One died when I was carrying them, very early on though, and of course I left Cyprus.
Were you pregnant?
Yeah, and I had Samina in Southport.
How hard was that decision to leave while you were pregnant?
No, it was wonderful.
Was it?
Yeah, it was great.
Was that the time you realised, okay, there's no turning back?
Yeah.
How was it losing a kid as well when pregnant?
Well, it was very early on.
Were you scared that you potentially could have lost?
Well, I thought I was still carrying.
So you didn't know?
No, until I had the scan. And Samina used to laugh because she'd say, I ate my twin. I ate it. Because apparently they do.
Do they?
Yeah, you know, when they're very, very,
The fetus.
yeah. Don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I've no doubt somebody will Google it and check it out for us. But yeah. So 3 kids then, on your own, trying to make it. How's life then going for you?
Well, it was great because when I moved back to Southport, I moved in with my parents. My sister bought me a fabulous car. So, you know, life was great. I had the boys, was pregnant with Samina, and then I had Samina, and, you know, life was great.
How was it having a daughter after 2 boys?
Oh my gosh. I'll never forget when I went for the scan and my friend came with me, and straight away, the nurse doing the scan, and she said, "You're having a girl." It was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm having a girl. And it was like, I was ringing everybody up, you know, and everyone was screaming down the phone, "Oh my God, it's a girl, it's a girl." Everyone was like super excited.
How was it with the 3 kids then, growing up, school? How was the 2 boys at school?
Well, there was 10 years between.
It's a big gap in it,
Yeah,
so they would
it
have
is.
missed each other through school.
Yeah. Yeah, so Rafi, George was in high school, and the little ones were in private nursery, and then they went on to St. Patrick's Junior School, and it was great, lovely.
How was the age difference between Rafi and Samina?
Well, for 2 weeks of the year, they were the same age.
So basically, you fell pregnant straight after giving birth. That's fucking mental. But yeah, that's fast, especially then leaving while pregnant. Like, it's
know.
mad.
I know.
But everything works out and everything happens for a reason, I guess. And as hard as that is to believe, it's mad how life can throw so many curveballs and ups and downs.
You know, if someone was to tell you what was going to happen or what could happen, you just wouldn't believe it.
So how was Samina at primary school?
She was great. She was really happy. She was really popular. She had a great relationship with all the teachers. She had great friendship groups. She was just gorgeous. You know, she was just a lovely person. And she did really well at St. Patrick's. You know, she was like, every year she was picked to play Mary, you know, at Christmas. And everyone would be shouting, "Oh, it's Mina again. Oh my God, it's because she's got black hair," and, you know. But yeah, it was a lovely, wonderful school, really happy times.
When did things change? Was it when she went to secondary school, high school?
No, they changed before that. They changed when we went into lockdown. So Smina was in year 6, junior school, and in the March 2020, we went into lockdown. And so the kids didn't go back to school after that. Because, you know, we'd arranged to do lots of things, you know, the school leavers, and all the kids are leaving and going to high school. They didn't get to do any of those things because everything was cancelled. So nobody went back to school. So they were leaving school, so they practically left in the March. Friends they never saw again who went on to a different high school. And then there was the group that went to Stanley High School. But in that, towards September time, when she was starting, I could see there was a bit of a change in her. And then when she started at Stanley, just went downhill from then.
What was happening?
She started self-harming. And we've gone from a really bubbly little girl who is happy, not a care in the world, to go into withdrawn, unhappy, and cutting herself.
Did she say there was anything wrong at that point?
I kept asking her.
How hard is that as a mother to see a beautiful young girl bubbly to then self-harming and kind of not want to be here? Was it self-harming then more like a scream out for help, or was she just not wanting to be here? Because I've never really dealt with it, so I don't really understand it. But for a mother who's lived it, what was the process of her mind? Was she trying to tell you, or how did it work?
Well, I was shocked when I saw it. And the reason why I was shocked was she was so happy. And there was nothing in her life that could cause her to start harming herself, because there was nothing wrong at home. She had great friendship groups. That it broke me, and I spoke to her, and I asked her, and I said to her, "What, I told you can always tell me everything. Always. I've always said to my kids, no matter what you've done, I don't care if you've vandalised the bus stop or smashed the shop window in, always tell me. Because if you tell me, we can deal with it together." So the kids have always been open and honest with me, but she just wouldn't tell me.
How old was she then?
She was 12.
Yeah, still young, man. Young.
She was 11.
Yeah.
She was 12 in the November.
What happens then once you started self-harming? Did you contact people? How does it work?
I contacted CAMS, but she was under CAMS.
What did they say?
Well, that's where it all went horribly wrong. Because
Did it feel as if there's more support? Was there support there? Or was it people just kind of brushing it under the carpet as if... Because I feel as if mental health and self-harming and suicide is probably at an all-time high. I don't actually know the stats and figures. I know it went an all-time high through lockdown because people couldn't go to the gym, they couldn't go to work, they couldn't interact, and people's mental health truly slipped. But what was Cam saying?
Well, she was already under CAMS because she was diagnosed at a younger age with autism. And so she did have her difficulties, is in like a sensory for autism. So she was under CAMS and she was seeing Mike from CAMS, and I have to say he was amazing. He really worked hard with Samina. He built a relationship up over a period of time, and we'd have sessions with Mike, and sometimes she'd go in and Mike could tell just by the look on her face if she was going to talk or if she wasn't. And, I'm surprised he got as far as he did with her, because if she decided she wasn't going to speak to you, if she didn't know you, she wouldn't speak to a stranger, she wouldn't open up. So he worked super hard with her, and she had a re-diagnosis in the January of 2021. And Mike then was promoted to a different job. So they then brought in a new CAMS worker for her, a doctor, and she never saw that person.
Why?
Because they wanted to do video appointments.
Because of lockdown?
Well, also, I don't know whether it was to do with lockdown. I don't know whether it was to do with the fact that they just didn't been able to facilitate, appointments or what. We never really got to the bottom of it as to why. But she never saw this new doctor, and she kept wanting to do video appointments. And even Mike had said to her, "Samina, you can't do video appointments with Samina. You've got to do face-to-face. It's not going to work. You've got to do face-to-face." And I kept saying this doctor, and she'd go, "Okay, we'll make an appointment. We'll do this. We'll do that," and never happened. And yet that same doctor knew when Samina reported a rape. She knew that she'd reported that. She knew she was self-harming. She knew she was being bullied, and she still didn't see her.
Do you blame them as well?
Yeah.
What about the alleged rape? What happened, and when did she report that? Was that before she started self-harming or after?
Well, it turns out there was a boy who's older than her. It was at her school. And he was a friend of my son. This boy, we found out later on, had been messaging her, and it started in the summer before she started at Stanley. And he'd obviously started some kind of nice relationship, sending nice messages through Snapchat. And she'd obviously responded, and this is how it started. But then it turns out he started asking, he must have got personal with her and asked her about sexual things because she was a virgin. And he knew she was, because she'd never been sexually active. And he wanted to be her first. And she kept saying no.
How old was he?
14. And anyway, it progressed. She was under a lot of pressure. She started self-harming. I know that she was getting messages, and Smina told me that her actual words were, "He pecked my head so much that I gave in." But reading the messages when she was walking into those woods, it's just awful. She was scared.
Did anything ever happen from that?
In what way?
Does he ever get charged or anything?
This is what's really upsetting, and this is what makes me so angry with the justice system and with the police force. She reported the rape, and the police came, and it was just horrific how they treated Samina. And basically he said to her, well, he did say to her, it's your word against his. And okay, that's fair enough, because at first, when it was reported, I said she's been sexually assaulted, and the police came back to me and they said to me, no, she's been raped. I said, right, okay. So the officer, the detective that came to the home, he said to Samina, it's your word against his. And I get that, because it'd been 4 weeks.
So would it be any DNA or anything?
No, there wouldn't have been any DNA. Okay? And he said to her, it's going to take 18 months to 2 years for it to go to court. And I could see by her face that she just felt like, what's the point in this then? You know, they don't believe me. It's going to take this long to go to court. But the thing was, he was a boy who you didn't mess with, because he had a really hard reputation. So he was well known in Southport for his age. Everybody knew who he was. He was known for fighting, other kinds of stuff going on in the background, that what he was doing. So both the kids were scared of the consequences of this. As Samina had said, you know, I'm going to get my head kicked in, Raf's going to get his head kicked in, we're going to get bullied, you know, and it's not going to stop. It's going to be horrendous. And that's exactly what did happen.
So she started getting bullied as well, because I seen the videos where girls were kicking her and punching her. Like,
Yeah.
Is that when the bullying started after that, the alleged rape?
Yeah.
How is that as a mother to be like going through that with your daughter and then seeing videos of
Oh, it
other
was
girls?
sick. It was sick. You know, these kids, the stuff that they send each other on Snapchat, honestly, it is sick.
Because if she was self-harming before then, did she self-harm even more after all that?
Yeah.
How extreme did it get?
Well, put it this way. When she'd passed and she was in the funeral directors, Michael, who was looking after her, he rang me to ask me about these marks on her legs, on her arms. And he said, I don't think the hospital have done this. And he explained to me, and I said, oh no, it isn't the hospital. That's the razor marks. And there was nothing that he could do with them. They were permanent. So when the coroner is saying that the superficial self-harming marks, they weren't. They would have scarred her for life. That's how bad they were.
So what was the police saying to it all then? What did they say? What happened with the bullying? Did anyone report that?
Yeah.
What did the school say? What did the police say? What did Cam say?
Well, the detective that was involved of Samina's rape case, he asked me to send the videos to him in an email, which I did do. It took him 3 weeks. We kept chasing him to find out what had happened. And I'd rang him and he wanted to speak to Samina. He didn't want to speak to me. He wanted Samina's phone number. And at the time I was thinking, I'm not sure this is quite right. But, you know, when you're in that situation, you've never been in a situation before when you've had to deal with the police or to deal with any form of rape or what is the process. So you're really guided by them, even though you've got that feeling of, this doesn't feel quite right. He wanted Samina's phone. He wanted her phone number. And she was on her way home from school, and I said, I'll give you her phone number. So he rang her. She didn't recognise the number, so she didn't answer. So he rang me back. And I said, well, I'll tell her to ring you. So she's walking through the door and she's ringing him. And next thing is, she said, oh, he wants to speak to you. He said, why is Samina's number withheld? Why is it a private number? I said, because, I said, of all the bullying she's been getting online, I said, her number's private. I was having this conversation with this detective. I was thinking, what's wrong? What's going on here? This just doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem normal.
Yeah, who gives a fuck if the number's private or not?
So he asked for the videos, and oh, that's right. He rang back and he said, how are things, Samina? And she said, well, you know, okay. He said, have they calmed down? She said, well, they have a bit. And he went, well, that's okay, because we thought that because things had calmed down, that we wouldn't go round to these girls' houses and speak to their parents, as we thought it would start things up again. So that was the end of that.
So he never went round to tell them to stop bullying or there'll be charges because he was not wanting to flare up again. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
No.
And who was this man?
This was Detective Chris Lovehead.
Is this what they do? Is that, I don't know the protocol. I don't know if that's what they do, or could we just leave it as calm down? But if someone commits a crime, they usually then...
Well, if you and I did that, we wouldn't be...
yeah, we'd be charged.
Yeah.
Is that lazy work, or is that how they deal with things for bullying at school? Do they see it too much where they try and... But they've not made amends, they've not got the kids to then come round to apologise or say, to tell the parents, listen, it doesn't happen again. Like, it doesn't make sense why he's not pursued it. Did you ever ask them that? Why? Did you ever speak to him again?
I spoke to him not very often because I couldn't get hold of him. I spoke to him a few times, but he was, you know, that was another thing. There was this, like, the police, they've got, you know, they go to work for so many days And then they have so many rest days off. And then if you try and call them when they're back, they then have to wait for their partner to come back into work as well. You know, it's almost like they can't do anything or can't make a decision or do anything without doing it with the other person. And that can go on for weeks and weeks before something's even done.
What was the school saying?
Oh.
What did the head teacher say?
Well, the girls that were bullying her were not from that school.
Oh, well, they're not.
But the boy was still in the school. And they were in COVID bubbles. And the school, well, we found out in the inquest, that the school said that was the safeguarding because they were in bubbles. Well, that's not safeguarding. They're COVID bubbles. That's not safeguarding because those bubbles were crossing paths. So she was seeing him on certain days, so she wouldn't go into school.
How hard was that when she had to go to school and she was seeing this kid?
Oh, it was terrible. That's why I said to her, listen, you don't have to go. Stay home. But then, of course, we find out there was another girl that he'd raped.
Same boy?
Same boy.
What happened with that?
The student, she was only 13. She reported it to the police. The school knew. In fact, the safeguarding officer at the school rang the student's father and said, you've got to go to the police, which they did do. They went to the police. She did an ABE.
What's that?
Um,
Actual best evidence?
Yeah, actual best evidence. She did an ABE. Samina found out that there was another person who'd made a report through somebody else. So she came in from school and she rang Chris Lovehead, who was the detective, and said to him, there is someone else. Someone else has come forward. He's raped someone else. And he went, oh, let me just check. Now, this is interesting because we find out at the inquest what really happened. So he came back on the phone, he went, no, Samina, there isn't anyone else, it's just you. Yeah, at the inquest, we then find out that when he said, hang on a minute, he then spoke to his boss. And his boss said, don't tell Samina that there's someone else.
Why? Doesn't make sense. Was he related to this kid or anything?
No. Got a very, very unhealthy interest in young girls.
See when your daughter...
And he's got a girlfriend.
So see when your daughter was self-harming and had mental health reports, did the police ask that? Would they try to do background checks on your daughter?
No.
Nothing like that?
No.
Just in case a lot of people, because I had a woman, Barbara, who heroin always mentioned, but some kids who had mental health issues, the mental hospital used to say they were signed off as crazy. So when they used to try and, because the doctors were evil in there, they were experimenting on the kids, abusing the kids would run away. But because they had been signed off as crazy, nobody would believe them. So because it's Samina's mental health and self-harming, I'm just asking, like, did the police check that and go, nah, she must be lying, or did they believe her, what she was saying? Or did they just sweep it under the carpet and think, nah?
Under the carpet.
How does that make you feel?
Failed.
By the system?
Yeah.
A 12-year-old kid, do you know what I'm saying?
And
Like,
she was just 12.
did she feel as if anybody was believing her?
No. And he never said to her, I believe you, Samina. They're meant to be specially trained officers. I don't know, it's just absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't know the protocol, like I say, with the bullying and stuff, how police should handle it, but it just doesn't seem right. But then if there's another alleged rape...
Well, there was 3 attacks on her. So you'd think that if you've been beaten up 3 times, the police would step in, especially when they've come from the perpetrator.
So the kid she accused of the rape, he was getting the girls to
Yes.
attack her?
Yes.
Was there proof of that?
Yes.
And still nothing was done?
No.
Why was that kid protected?
They only got arrested. Samina had died, and in the August, I put out the videos, and the police rang me straight away and said, "Where did you get those videos?" I said, "What do you mean, where did I get them?" I said, "I've had them for months. You've got them." And it turns out, when he went and checked, that detective hadn't logged those videos.
What? The same guy who's... That doesn't add up. Why though? Do you know what I'm saying? Why?
Lazy.
But there's a young girl...
It's almost like it doesn't matter. Oh, it's nothing. It's only a kid.
That's fucking bad policing, whether
really
that's
bad.
lazy, whether it's a cover-up, whether it's somebody being protected. I genuinely don't know. I don't have all the ins and outs and the answers, but it's not normal, especially if a 12-year-old kid has took her own life because of the pressures and nobody believing her, all the stresses of life, being bullied, alleged rapes, like a 12-year-old, you know? But that's shameful, and it's bad, very bad policing for to go that extent, especially not going to anybody's door, 3 separate bullying attacks. Like, where's the protection for the kids? Where's the protection for a 12-year-old girl, you know? That doesn't add up.
No, she didn't have any protection. There was nothing put in place to protect her.
Did you think the self-harming would eventually go to the extent it went to with your daughter? Was it hard to try and protect and watch 24/7?
Well, in the March, she took 4 omeprazole.
What's that?
It's omeprazole is a tablet you take for acid reflux. She took 4 of those, and I told the school, so they knew that she'd, attempted, which...
So she attempted to take her life beforehand, so the self-harming, the cutting, but then obviously taking the tablets. What did she say when she came round after that one?
Well, that's the problem. Nothing happened to her. So nothing happened when she took them. So it was almost like she'd taken them, but maybe she went to sleep. I don't know. But it didn't affect her, as in she wasn't ill. She didn't need to go to the hospital. It was only afterwards I found out when she told me. I was like, what?
How hard is that as a mother to try and...
Well, and you got to think of the time as well. We've gone from September to March, and this little girl that's watching Barbie films is now self-harming, trying to take her own life, being bullied, and how does that... It's overnight, isn't it? It's like, how can you go from one extreme to another? Now, how can you go from being happy and life's wonderful and not a care in the world, being young and free and, innocent, to that in such a small space of time at the age of 12?
Yeah, it's sad. So the schools couldn't do anything because the other girls were in different schools?
Well, the school didn't do anything, no. The police didn't do anything.
And why was that kid, after 2 alleged rapes, not expelled or suspended to kind of figure out the answers?
Because in this country, you're innocent till proven guilty.
Which is a fair statement as well. Everybody does deserve it, but it's not just one, it's 2.
It was 2 in the same school.
Yeah, and then that's got to raise alarm bells. First one should raise alarm bells, but...
Well, the first one had happened before Samina. So Samina was the second.
So this happened before, but that
Yeah.
police officer never even declared that.
So-
Did he know about this one?
Well, when he spoke to his boss, and his boss said, "Don't tell Samina." So they already knew.
And you've got proof of that the boss says that to him?
Yeah, it came out in the inquest.
So there's proof that...
Though he was on the stand in the inquest, and that was what was asked him, and that was his response. That's how I found out.
Did they find out why he said that?
So we found that out when he was on the stand, which was like, oh my gosh, that's another one.
The headmaster?
Oh, he lied. He lied on the stand.
Denied about knowing what?
Denied. In fact, When he was asked the question, were you aware there was another student who had made an allegation? Were you aware? And there was just silence in the court. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's got him. He just didn't answer. And you waited for ages and ages. You could have heard a pin drop. And he went, I wasn't made aware of it.
So the headmaster knew because one of the girls' fathers went into the school and told
Oh,
him,
yeah.
and then your sister said to him
Yeah.
as well, so he did know.
Yeah,
And he says he couldn't recall it.
yeah.
Why the cover up from the head teacher? Is he trying to protect his school?
Well,
Is he trying to protect his reputation?
Well, he left the school after Samina passed away. He left.
Yeah, well, that's guilt. No protection for a 12-year-old. No protection for the students. Like, why the cover up? Why did not suspend from school? Anyway, like you say, that is innocent to proven guilty, we get that, but then keep him out of school until the process and the questions and everything's been put across the table to understand what was going on.
The police said that they were going to speak to him. Now, also in the inquest, the police have given a statement to say that they didn't need Samina. They had enough evidence to go and speak to him. Well, that was not true, but that's not what they told us. So they went to speak to him, and what happened when they went to speak to him, we were never told. He was asked to come in for a voluntary interview. When he went in that voluntary interview, don't know what happened. I'm sure it was a no comment interview, but he was not charged. So the police came to my house because Samina's died now, and it was a long time before. It was January. It was a long time before we found out what was going to happen to this perpetrator. And the police came to the house and they said, we believe Samina 100%. And I thought, well, right, okay. But there isn't enough evidence to prove beyond reasonable doubt that that's what happened to hold a conviction. So that was it. Nothing. He walked away. That night, I went on social media. I see this great big post that, well, I didn't see it. People were sending me all this post from Facebook, and it was from his mother had put this post out, and she'd named him. It was her son, how he'd been accused of this horrific crime that he had never done. Talked about my youngest son, Rafi, how he'd got Samina to make this lie up about her son to get her son into trouble at school. How Samina was a troubled girl who had sex in her bedroom with different boys. There was all this nasty stuff being said, and her son was innocent. And, you know, it was Raf that had made Samina make this lie up. This went out on social media. It went out throughout all the groups in Southport. It went everywhere. And there was nothing I could do about it. There was nothing. 18 months later, I get an IOPC report.
What's that?
It's, you know, the report from the
police conduct.
Yeah. And it's a full detailed report of the case before Samina passed away. Those officers, them two detectives, when they went to his home, he admitted it. His mum admitted it. She said Samina consented. The officer said, well, she can't consent, you know. Now, at that point, he should have been cautioned. But instead, they gave him a choice. They offered him either, we'll arrest you now, or you can hand your goods over. You know, like your phones, devices, hand your devices over, which he did do. So the whole time, it was there. I had it there in black and white. He admitted to it.
And nothing was done?
No. So it's statutory rape.
Their argument's going to be he's never been charged. He's never been convicted. Their argument's always going to be that, because they're obviously saying that that's just the way it is. So they've got an argument with that. But on the other hand, if he's admitted it black and white, like, why was nothing done? Did you ever get the answers for that?
No.
And this was the same copper who was working through the whole case?
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do to then take it to a civil court? Or
yes,
anything?
I'm going to. Yeah, I'm doing that next.
Because it just doesn't seem normal, man. It doesn't seem right. So when the mother's putting out that post, blaming your daughter, blaming your son,
and the whole time
they've admitted it, and then it's going round as if you and your family are liars. Like, how hard is that to deal with?
Oh, it was really difficult. It was, I mean, 99% of the town, Southport, they knew the truth. They knew she wasn't lying, but to put that out was disgusting. And that, to me, that just shows you what kind of parent you are. You know your child's done something so horrific as that. I mean, you're going to keep your head down, aren't you?
They're trying to blame a girl who took her own life through it, who can't even defend herself anymore.
No.
What about the day when Samina took her own life? Was there any telltale signs on that day or the day before or anything that...
Well, on the Monday, she didn't go to school because the bubbles crossed. And my other son was at school, and I got a phone call from him. He'd been beaten up by the perpetrator's friend. So, and his nose was all busted and bleeding. So I was with my sister at the time and my eldest son. So we went down to the school, and I got to the reception, and I said to them, you know, Rafi's rang me. He's been beaten up. We don't know anything about that. I said, well, trust me, he is, because his nose is bleeding. So we waited 20 minutes in the foyer at school for Rafi. And at that point, the perpetrator walked through the doors, through reception with his class. And as he passed me, when he looked at me, he said to me, what are you looking at, you fucking bitch? And my son had heard it. So my son just tried to get to him. My sister stopped him, and there was all these kids, there was chaos. They got all through the doors and they locked the doors. So because of that, and Raf being beaten up, we went home, and of course, the perpetrator walked out of the school and he got beaten up. So what led from that then led for his brother coming to my house trying to kick my front door in, his dad coming to my house knocking on the door, ringing the police up, the police coming, it's all on CCTV. The police come, they tell me to move house. They're not really willing to do anything. Then my eldest son gets threatened by perpetrator's dad's friend, you know, who came round to the house, not with him when I was knocking at the door. You know, my son's been in Cyprus from October, and he came home at the very end of May. So we only got a couple of weeks left with Samina before she died. He's minding his own business in the doctors, and he's now been accused of beating up this kid. So the police come, look at the CCTV, and they say, well, why don't you move schools? Why don't you move homes? So that was the end of that. Teacher rings up and says, don't bring the kids into school again. Everybody stay off school until we sort this situation out. So, right, okay. Following day, police come round again because my oldest son's been threatened. So they come into the home. They go through the CCTV again from the night before. We get into the same conversation of what we've been going on for months about what had Samina been through, what had happened to her. And we're going on all night, and it's late now. Samina is right in front of me in the kitchen, and she picks up the orange juice, and she looks at me and she said, oh, I'm sick of this. I've had enough. And walked upstairs. I thought she was sick of the police being here, because it was twice now, and she'd had enough. And the police left about, 12 o'clock, something like that at night. My eldest son went in to see her, and he found all the blister packs all over the floor, everywhere. He called an ambulance straight away, and he shouted me, and I came up, and she was sat in the bed, and she was normal, talking on a phone. You wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong with her at all. And the ambulance came. She got in the ambulance, and the paramedic asked me what she'd taken, and I had the packets, and I said it's colchicine. And then I could hear her talking on the phone, and the person on the other phone said, blue light, Alder Hay, as fast as you can, crash team waiting. And at that point I thought, oh my God, this is serious. So I just shoved my fingers down her throat in the back in the ambulance, and I was saying, be sick, be sick. And she must have panicked a bit because she saw the look on my face, and she went, right, okay, I'll start being sick. So we were getting as much sick up as possible before we got to the hospital. And then when she got to the hospital, she had all the, the charcoal that they take. But it was just too late.
Yeah, sorry for your loss. Who do you blame for this? Because it seems a lot of names you can blame.
If the police, if social services had all done their jobs correctly, she'd have still been here. She should have been put on a child protection and referred to the Rainbow Centre.
Who are they?
It's at Alder Hay. It's a centre at Alder Hay, a Rainbow Centre especially for children who've been raped, sexually abused. Didn't even find out any of that till I did the serious case review.
What made you do the serious case review? What made you look into it all? Did you know there was something amiss?
No, it's normal practice when a child dies.
So it's normal procedure to then get everything, all the reports that's been done? And what you were thinking then, you've lost your daughter, 12 years old, to then looking at the police saying, don't tell them there's another rape, the head teacher saying that they didn't know. not going round to speak to the people who are trying to bully your daughter, like, how does that then, because there's no closure to it, because obviously you're still fighting to get answers for your daughter, and rightly so, but how does that then make you feel to then think that more should have been done to protect a 12-year-old innocent girl?
There were so many failures. So many failures from every agency, from CAMS to the school to Merseyside Police. All those agencies involved with Samina, all of them failed in every area. Every single area. If they'd have all done their jobs correctly, she'd still be here.
See, after your daughter passed, did more people come forward to say they've been treated like this? Is this like a one-off that it just so happens there's been bad people involved, or is this just a normal occurrence where people are just lazy, people are too scared to admit there's problems in schools, there's problems on the streets? Like, is it other people came forward to say that's how they've been treated, who have maybe lost loved ones going through the same as you? Or
since Samina's passed away, I've had parents who've reached out to me who are experienced the same as what Samina went through with their children. I do think it's a problem. It's not just Samina. But, you know, they just all cover up for each other. They protect each other. You know, there was, at the time when Samina was at school, there was a safeguarding officer who was a police officer, and he worked at the school. He was aware of certain things going on in the school. He then reported this and went to his line manager to say about safeguarding in the school. And of course, because he was doing his job correctly and he would not let this go, the school decided to remove him. So when he found out about Samina, because he was trying to help another girl that was in there, in that school, a previous victim he was trying to help, he wrote to the coroner. And because he wrote to the coroner, he was accused of having an affair with me. And he got gross misconduct. Never met this man before in my life. Never.
the coppers accused him of having an affair with you?
He's still going through a tribunal. Yeah, they're all, there's a lot, there's so much to this story. There's a lot what people don't know out there, what's gone on.
Who put those rumours out?
Merseyside Police. I had to write a statement. I had to write a statement saying to the court, I've never met this man before. I've never had an affair with him. Wouldn't know him if I walked over him in the street.
And it was the police who then reported it on their own?
It was a safeguarding officer who went back to his sergeant in the police station to say there's a problem at Stanley High School. There's a problem in safeguarding and X, Y and Z is going on. And the school did not want any outsiders to get involved. They didn't want the police involved. They wanted to deal with all these issues, which were sexual assault, rape, bullying, naked pictures on phones, all going on in the school. They wanted to keep it all under wraps under the school. So they got rid of the safeguarding officer. They got rid of him, kicked him out.
Because he was reporting the madness in their school?
Yeah.
Try to discredit him?
Yeah.
Who the fuck's protecting this school? Like, it's absolute madness. Like, listen, I know there's a lot of, there is a lot of madness now with kids and technology and social media and Snapchat, and there's a lot of pressure, but I've never heard of a school with so much madness in it. Maybe it's what happens in all these schools and it's just covered up, I don't know, but this school just seems fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Why did you never take the kids out? Why did you not take your daughter out? Is that a regret?
Well, and we'll get to that didn't get a chance to, did I? Because when you think about it, I found out in the March, she died in the June.
So see, when your daughter passes away, did anybody come forward and say sorry? The police officer, CAMS, the school, or did it waking people up? They're going, okay, we fucked up here. Was there anybody come forward to apologise for that?
Well, they never came forward to say, do you know what, we've made a mistake and we're really sorry, which is what I wanted. That's all I wanted, to acknowledge that you didn't get things right. You did make mistakes, but own it and change it. Because we can't bring Samina back, but owning what you've done and making sure it doesn't happen again, that's all I wanted. I never got that at all. Never got that.
Have you ever heard from that copper again?
No. A new detective took over when she died.
Why?
Well, because...
Guilt? Why would it not be a female inspector anyway if it's a young girl they're dealing with?
Well,
Would it not have been easier for a young girl to speak to another female instead of a man?
Yeah, I
well?
think that as well.
Like a duty of care, like a woman should be coming round and speaking to someone.
Yeah.
Somebody who understands that. Like, it just all seems messy. And it's an innocent girl who's took her own life when it could have been stopped so many occasions. It's not just one occasion. It's the lack of duty of care. It's the lack of trusting. It's the lack of understanding and try to believe. And listen, people lie as well. People make up stories as well. But there's got to be an understanding and a duty of care of everyone involved. We get it, but it's a 12-year-old kid. There's already accusations made in that school against the same boy. There's already cover-ups. There's already lies. So you've got to raise alarm bells. It's just common knowledge. You think, nah, something's not right until you get to the bottom of it. It just seems lazy work all round. So what happens then after your daughter took her own life? Like when you started getting the reports and seeing black and white that this ain't normal, like, how hard is that then to go through it all over again? Because it's not a case of you'll never move on, you'll always be grieving, especially losing a child. But how do you then look at all the evidence and people who'd failed, not just yourself but your daughter?
Well, I don't actually think I've actually grieved, to be honest, because I really didn't get a chance to because of that. Because as soon as she died, then, of course, all the hate started online.
From who?
From everybody and anybody, like kids. And, you know, she was called a slag, she was called a whore. You know, it was endless. You know, somebody setting up account, putting money out there, 10,000, smash up Samina's grave and film it. Of course, the grave got smashed. You know, they put dog feces all over her grave. And it was endless. And not only that, but the perpetrator's mother absolutely made a beeline for me and my family. Constant harassment, constant following, constant abuse. It was constant. Police had phone call after phone call after phone call. They never did anything. And then I started to get information coming in about, hang on, police, you didn't do that. Information about social services, hang on, you didn't do that. So I'm starting to wake up to all this paperwork that's coming in that I'm reading on the failures of Samina. And I'm awake now. And so I then start to retaliate. I'm not this type of person who's going to sit down in the corner and think, oh, well, you know, just leave it. Just let it go. You know, she's gone. I thought, no, I'm going to stand up for my daughter. I'm going to be her voice. This is wrong. It's wrong how they've treated her. You know, she should still be here. So then I started to voice my opinions online. Then I got threatened, as in like from the inquest, from that side of things, the police were monitoring all my social media. That was getting sent then to the coroner. I mean, this has been going on for like the last couple of years, and the more knowledge I gained, the more they threatened me and said. Then it got time to the serious case review. They decided that I was not allowed to see it. They weren't going to publish it, and so my solicitor argued it and said, well, how can we have an inquest without a serious case review? How can we have an inquest without all the evidence brought in? So the coroner decided that I could see it, but I would have to go to London. I'd have to go to this office. Not allowed any phones, not allowed any pen or paper. You go into this office, we'll show it you read it, and then we take it away. So I had to ask the coroner if my sister could see it. So there was two of us.
Evidence or proof?
Yeah. The argument was that if the serious case review was published, it would cause unrest in Southport because the perpetrator still lives there and all the girls still live there, and that would cause maybe them to self-harm. It could cause him and his family to come to harm.
But what about your daughter?
Exactly.
But why did they get a duty of care now? Why not a duty of care for your daughter, who was the one who was being bullied?
Exactly. And I couldn't be trusted that I wouldn't publish it.
Because you were already on social media talking about it?
And so, no, I wasn't allowed to talk about it.
But beforehand you were on social media to talk about certain things, other things?
Yeah.
Is that why you were a threat? Because they were scared that you're going to expose it?
Yeah.
So what sort of things were in this paperwork?
Damning.
From who? The police?
All of them.
Head teachers? School? What about the young girl's parents? Did they ever come forward and apologise for the bullying and the attacks and the videos?
One girl did, yes. One girl did. And I've accepted her apology.
Yeah, fair play.
And I want her to do well. I want her, don't wish any harm. And I appreciated that apology.
But it takes a lot, because your daughter did take her life because of the bullying as well. Like,
I know she did.
These
it was
people,
a combination of everything.
Yeah, these kids have got blood in their hands, and I hope they realise the extent of what they've done. You don't want harm coming to them, because then who's any different? But you still want justice for your daughter. Like, why did your daughter take her own life? Because there's so many unanswered questions of who was to blame, and there's so many things you can go round in circles now. We're talking, what, nearly 4 years now?
Yeah.
It's still a long time, and try to process it, and you're still fighting. But on what could have been done better, do you think, that could have prevented so many lives being destroyed? Because those kids, I don't know those kids, but I'd imagine that would affect them later on in life. That what they done to your daughter as well, the videos are, the proof's there of what they actually done.
I'd like to think it would have an effect on them. And that would show that they've got emotion.
Empathy.
And empathy. But I don't know. Some kids today are so cruel.
So what you been fighting now then? What's the process now, 4 years later?
Well, the next process is civil cases against each of the interested parties. That's the next step.
And what outcome would you want from all that?
I want it to be acknowledged that they made mistakes. I want a judge or
Judge and jury?
Yeah, to say yes, here it is. Here is the evidence. Because when we had the inquest, we weren't allowed to have the serious case review. We weren't allowed to direct any questions at it. We weren't allowed to have the AOPC report. You know, we weren't allowed to ask any questions on it. So the evidence was really limited in the inquest. When you do a civil case, all the evidence is there. So read it, black and white, and you tell me that mistakes weren't made.
Who smashed up your 12-year-old daughter's grave?
We don't know.
What did the police say to that?
Sorry.
That's that? No investigation, nothing?
No.
It's different if it was like a criminal or a gangster or maybe family wars or whatever. It's a
No.
12-year-old girl. You know?
Oh, it's...
That's scumbag material. No matter what it is, it's a 12-year-old girl. No matter what grievances you have with anybody, it's not a tough war. It's not gangsters. It's not,
no.
It's nothing like that. It's a 12-year-old girl's grave. Whoever done that should burn in hell. Like, that is fucking rotten to the core. No matter what you were paid, no matter what you were done, that's something that you have to live with. And God forbid if they have kids and if that ever happened to them, how would they feel, you know? So how you thinking then, what you thinking then when your 12-year-old girl's grave's been smashed up? When did you find that out? The next day?
I found out there was some people who'd gone to visit her grave. At the time, she didn't have a headstone in because she just died. So she had a wooden cross, but people had come and brought teddies and gifts and flowers. And some people had gone to visit her that morning and they'd rang to say there was dog feces all over the place, everywhere. Bricks. It's just disgusting.
Who the fuck walks about with dog shit in their pocket? You know what I'm saying? But that's strange behaviour in itself.
Disgusting. Just seriously disgusting, sick.
And the police just says sorry.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing they could do because it was in the cemetery.
Yeah, unless someone admits it.
There's no CCTV, so...
So what's the plans now then? You've won a civil case, they want answers, apologies, just to kind of get the recognition that they failed your daughter.
Yeah.
And hopefully it doesn't happen again, but by the looks of it, it's going to happen again to other kids, and it's sad reality for parents out there. Really, there's not much. And there is support. Like you said, there was a guy from CAMS at the start who seemed decent. Did you ever speak to him again?
No, that's a shame. Because I would like to thank him.
How do you then shed light on it? How can people get involved and help you and maybe get involved with, try to find answers and, like you say, get those apologies, because you have been failed by, like, I don't have all the evidence in black light myself to make a judgment, but I can only judge what you're saying, and yeah, it's been clear that you've been failed. I don't know whether it's lazy policing, whether it's a cover-up. I genuinely don't know. Hopefully that copper can learn from it, and because there is good coppers out there as well. There's good people in social work. Sometimes you get the luck of the draw and you get bad ones who don't really give a fuck, but that then comes at a cost of losing loved ones, and it's not good enough. For me personally, sorry is not good enough, especially if you've lost a daughter, but I'd imagine you would get some closure with it for people to put their hands up and say, all right, we messed up there.
Yeah.
You know, where you can, like you said, you've not grieved in 4 years.
No.
When do you think you could truly grieve? When you get the answers and people put their hands up to say, okay, they failed you, they failed your daughter?
I think so. Sometimes I think, grief is very different for every single person, their grief journey, and it affects people differently. I mean, I can talk about Samina, I can talk about what happened, but I can't actually think about it. Does that make sense? Because if I think about it, it takes me to a place that's not nice. And it's almost like a fine line between being sane and going insane. So I can talk about it, but I can't think about it. Yeah. So I don't think I've processed it.
You just become numb to your words. You're kind of desensitized to what you're saying because you've spoke about it enough,
Yeah.
but you've not really actually sat down, and one thought can send you over the edge. You're trying to keep it together because
Yes.
for your daughter though. Because listen, everybody's got that fuck it button in certain things. Never mind losing a kid, like that fuck it button, and start going to doors and start really showing them what the fucking pain is like. You know what I'm saying? Like it must be difficult to try and be as professional to then go head on with it and try and get answers what your daughter deserves, because sometimes, like you say, we can go insane, and it wouldn't be nice for other people if the shoe was on the other foot, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I did press the fuck it button.
That's natural though. You've got every right
You
to
know,
though.
I have pressed that button and I got, I was arrested and,
You lost a daughter.
I know.
There's no excuse either, but you still lost a daughter. You're wanting answers. You're getting graves smashed up. You're getting targeted with trolls online, like, so it will come to a head, but now it's a case of try to be professional as you can. It's easy for me to say because I've never been in your position, but
I have to be.
to get your answers, because what happens is if you keep going to prison or doing daft shit, you just become targeted as a loose cannon. So the stuff that you say, you don't become believed.
No.
Because you're just a nutcase who's running around fucking losing her shit. I'm laughing, but that's the way it can look. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It gives them
of course,
ammunition for being the bad one, when really you're just trying to get answers for your daughter to try and be stable going through life. How's it been the last 4 years? Have you get stronger each year? Do you just feel as if you're on autopilot?
I've grown. I'm from the beginning, from where I am now, I can see where I've grown. I've become a different person. I've had to. Because I've had to learn quickly. And I've had to use, I don't know, I've had to start reading again. I've had to start doing many things to find out, because of all this information that's come along. I've had to research it, and then I've had to look at it again and again to find out where the failures were, what's gone wrong, why did that happen, this shouldn't have happened. So, and I have got to a point where it's, I don't care what anyone says or what anyone does, no matter who you are, I'm never ever going to stay quiet until I've got justice for her. Never. Because I know the truth, I've got the proof, and I'm never going to stop. I want things to change. I don't want another child to go through what Samina went through. I don't want that. I don't know what I can do, but I will, keep going, and I will keep trying.
How can people help you out? Is there any backing you can have?
I think at the moment, really, I think it's more of on the court side of things, where I'm going to find some justice. And that's a hard journey.
How long does it take to go to the civil case? What do you need to go to the civil case?
It can take a year to 18 months.
What
2
do you need
years.
to then start a civil case? Do you need a lot of evidence? Or have you got all the paperwork? Is that
we've
from
got
the
all that.
inquest? Is that from the inquest that can then take it to a civil case?
Well, we had all the evidence before the inquest. And of course, there was a lot of evidence not used in the inquest. So we'll use all the evidence. And then, we won't be restricted on anything with a civil case. So that's where we can, put someone on the stand and give them the question.
Yeah. Why did you not report the other one? Why did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all you
And it's
want is
coming.
answers. That's 4 years where you've not had answers. There must have been
I just want answers.
many sleepless nights where, but like you say, it's got to keep the good fight and stay on the path.
I know, but it's so frustrating because it's, you've got all this knowledge, you've got all this proof, and there's nothing you can do with it because everything takes time. And I'm quite an impatient person, so I'm like wanting to, and that's why I get to the point where it's like, sod this. I'm going to say it now. I'm going to put it out there on social media. I'm going to say it how it is. I'm going to put it all out there. You know, and everyone's saying, no, don't, wait. And I'm like, no, I've had enough.
Sometimes it is good to create noise, but you don't want that backfire later on the line if it's online and they're using it against you, because you can get done for contempt of court and stuff by sharing things that you can't as well. Like, they can be fuckers, and the last thing you want to do, and all you want is answers, but the last thing you want to do is you then give them again more ammunition. But again, how can anybody say it different? It's they've not been through what you've went through.
No,
And
they
like you
haven't.
say, you've got the answers and you just want people to hear it. You want
do,
people
yeah.
to hear it and go and just say, like your daughter probably wanted, I believe you. Just for somebody to say, I believe you. You know? But it just seems very messy. But I hope you get the answers. I hope you get the closure and the apologies that you deserve to then go, okay, you can maybe kickstart and flip a better chapter and have a great life for your daughter, you know?
Yeah.
And for anybody watching, it's maybe their kids are going through the same, maybe bullying or allegations that they've made and they don't know where to go. What advice would you have for them? For any parents watching?
So they can contact the charity, which is the Samina Halliwell Foundation, and we'll do what we can to help, and we'll put them in the right direction of what they need.
Because there's so much bullying goes on now.
Oh, it's terrible.
So there is.
It's rife.
So you don't know, again, I'm not sticking up for that copper, but you don't know if he just hears it so many times that he's just thinking, I just can't be asked. Or just, like you say, it's lazy.
Yeah.
And I hope that is one of the answers, but if we got, I should have put more duty of care into it. But as coppers as well, they do see a lot of that stuff. And I grew up to hate the coppers. In Glasgow, we fucking grew up to hate them. But since doing podcasts and speaking to them and realising what they actually have to see and go through, but it doesn't mean you lose why you're there in the job. You know what I'm saying? You don't become lazy with it. You don't then just try and sweep things under the carpet to get your wage and then go home. Like, do your duty of care, especially if it's young, innocent kids. Do your fucking job. Don't protect anyone. Do your job. Just try and get the answers and try and, it's just a difficult one, especially with what you're saying. It just seems so messy. And so dark with so many different covers up. You don't know if people are trying to cover their own arse. You don't know if they're being, again, I keep saying it, lazy. But I hope you get the answers. I hope you get the apologies. And like you say, you seem decent enough if people just say, listen, I'm sorry, I fucked up there. You would accept that and then you can get some closure, you know?
Yeah.
How are you feeling today?
Okay.
Yeah. It's a difficult one though, innit? But again, it's just to shed more light on it and hopefully it can quicken things up for you and maybe people can come forward and try and get you to move on. Would you like to finish up on anything else, Rachel?
No, I think that's...
So what is your charity and stuff again? What's your social media links for anybody that's maybe want to reach out? A lot of people are, like I say, embarrassed as well and ashamed that maybe their kids are getting bullied and people don't feel as if they could be doing more but don't know where to turn. Like, what, just in case, again, just your social media links for people to get involved or maybe drop you a message? Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, I've got my Instagram, Rachel Halliwell, and my ex account, Facebook, TikTok, and I've got the website for the charity, which is the Samina Halliwell Foundation.
Again, I wish you nothing but the best for the future, Rachel. Hope you get those answers and just keep fighting the good fight. And again, for any parents maybe watching that's maybe struggling, then drop Rachel a message and hopefully she can guide you to, a better fucking... better duty of care from others, you know. So, listen, God bless you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you for having me.